ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of What's Happening. I'm George Binns, and we're having a repeat conversation with the Reverend Myozen Joan Amaral, and she has invited the Reverend Dr. Andre Bennett to join us. Welcome to you both.
Thank you very much.
Since the show is mainly about you, Andre, you're a minister in Lynn.
I am.
What church or organization?
Sure. Well, thank you. Firstly, thank you to both of you for having me. I am, as was introduced, the Reverend Dr. Andre Bennett. I go by Reverend Andre or just Andre. I am the pastor for youth and young adults at Zion Baptist Church in Lynn.
How long have you been there?
I'm sorry?
How long have you been there?
I have been serving Zion Baptist Church for the last 10 years, and they have decided to keep me on and keep asking me to stay. So one of two things is happening. Either I'm doing something well, or I've really cast a spell on them that they don't know.
Sounds like you're having fun, though.
I really am. In addition to my role at Zion Baptist Church, I've recently been elected president of the board of directors for ECHO, which is the Essex County Community Organization.
Wow.
And I attribute that feat directly to the connection of Zion Baptist Church and the work that Zion has done with ECHO over the years. So, yeah, it's been a decent 10-year run.
Good.
Thank you.
So, what's your impression of what's going on in Lynn? What are you seeing there?
We all want to feel and believe that our particular community is the safe one, is the one where, everybody gets along and things are great and we all get together and sing Abraham, Lincoln, and John. But that's not the case. Unfortunately, in Lynn, we see where community policing specifically target the communities of color in that city. Just recently, actually, I was called, so it had to be 10 o'clock at night, where police was called to a home of 3 African-American males. Well, actually one African-American male and his girlfriend, and he had 2 friends there, that they received a noise complaint. And the police showed up, and the first thing that was asked, do you hear any noise? This was asked by the resident, and the police said no. He said, well, because there's no noise. Well, long and short of it is I have the video in my phone, the initial interaction. This young man was grabbed and thrown up against the police car and just brutally and badly treated by the police officer in his own home. As a matter of fact, when the noise complaint turned out to be really nothing, the police then said to him, well, you're drinking in public. And he turned, and I have the video of the interaction. He turned to the police officer and said, I'm in my yard. I'm home. There's a sign on my gate that says no trespassing. So actually you're trespassing on my property at this point. And that meant nothing to the police. Long and short of it is the 3 of them were arrested. They were really treated badly. And there are reports by them that when they were thrown in the police car, firstly 12 cars showed up and a paddy wagon. They were thrown in the police car. They were handcuffed, thrown in the car. They were not buckled up, so there was no seatbelt. And one of the police turned around to them when he was driving off and said, I hope you enjoy this, you black, whatever. And those were both, racially derogatory terms as well as homophobic terms that were used at these young men. And when they got to the station to be booked, there was another bout of physical abuse by the police. And, the police had the privilege of resigning over these issues. He tendered his resignation a few days later, and now there is an investigation happening And that's just one of the thing. For myself personally, I've had, and I don't want to jump right into my stories, but I've had many, many situations of just, how racially insensitive and racist community policing has gotten in the city of Lynn. And so for me personally, right now, Lynn is one of those cities where I am working to shed some light on the disparities between the black and brown communities as against how the white community is treated by police in Lynn.
Well, it sounds like you were successful in having something done about the issue where a police officer, quote, resigned. Do you think you're getting support from the administration to eliminate this kind of activity?
So there are a couple of things, and thank you for asking that. There are a couple of things that I've asked for, where we've asked for, the community, the residents have asked for, that the police have told us point blank that is never going to happen. One being an independent review council to investigate matters like these. Because the reality is, yes, the police resigned. That's okay. But it's not enough. It's not good enough when you physically assault and abuse someone for you to get the privilege of walking away, on top of the fact that charges were levied at this young man for resisting arrest and this and that. These are trumped up charges that were levied at this young man. A police officer got the opportunity to resign, walk away scot-free, nothing happened where he's concerned. And now here are three young men and their families that are left to deal with the trauma of what they went through that night, on top of the future stain that having an arrest on their records is going to create for them. So it's not good enough that he resigned. It's a step, but I don't even know if it's a step in the right direction, because he wasn't fired. He had the privilege of resigning. So that's one. Two, I've been meeting personally with the police department in Lynn for the longest time. I've met with the previous mayor. I've met with this current mayor. And I feel like it is more, let's tease the rat with the cheese kind of a thing is happening. They will meet with us and they'll have the conversations and we'll do the relationship building and we'll do this. But when it comes on to committing to some of the things that we're asking for, it is not happening. Lynn, a city of 90,000 people, I can't speak specifically to the number of Black and brown residents in Lynn, but it's somewhere within the mid 30 to low 40 percentile of the population in Lynn. And the command staff in Lynn looks nothing like the city, and no one can tell us at this very moment why that is the case. A number of the police officers, a great number of the police officers within the Lynn PD do not live in the city of Lynn. When you go to City Hall, there is very little diversity at City Hall. So, it is very difficult for me to say, yes, we're getting the support of the administration, when the administration, both the police department and the current city government, the fundamental thing that we're asking for, which is have an administration that reflects the community, just isn't there. That's just not there.
Well, you raise an interesting predicament that the city of Lynn keeps voting in the same type of people. And you have the same relationship election after election. So theoretically in America, the election is going to make things happen. Have you had any success running candidates who are more amenable to your point of view?
So one, I echo and the church, because of our status, we do not get involved in political lobbying or political advocacy. We're not in that business. We're in the business of building a beloved community. However, I have seen members even from my very congregation that have unsuccessfully ran for local government, for city government, that have applied to certain things. A number of things, a number of factors to consider. One, when people feel like their voices make no difference, they become disenfranchised. They become disinterested. And we see that happen a lot. The other thing is, unfortunately, we live in a system where people of color have to work. And I say this with all due respect to my white counterpart, but people of color have to work twice as hard to have half as much as our white counterpart. And what you find happening, especially in these local elections and stuff like this, a lot of times our Black voters or brown voters, they can't get to vote because by the time they get out of their second or third job, the polling stations are closed or the election is closed. By the time they have to leave for their first job, the polling stations are not open. And unfortunately, systemically, this is strategic in ensuring that certain communities are oppressed. And I know that that is a very difficult pill for people to swallow, but unfortunately, that's how it is. And let me show you why I say this is. Let me provide an example. In my role as a minister, I am privy to a lot of personal and private information, some of which I can share, some of which I can't, and some that I share without name. But I know two gentlemen, two young men, both of them intelligent, well-educated, smart individuals. One went to a university in Massachusetts, and one went to a very elite Ivy League school here in Massachusetts, and one went to a university in New Hampshire. Both of them graduated with a Bachelor's of Business Administration degree. The one who went to Ivy League, he graduated complete his degree, graduated, had his degree in hand, his transcripts in hand. The one who went to school in New Hampshire, he walked, but he didn't complete his degree program because he still had one extra course to take in the summer after graduation, but schools allow you to walk if you commit to completing. Well, he chose not to complete it after he walked. So technically, he still doesn't have his degree. Both of them applied for a job at a well-known software company here in Massachusetts. Both of them applied for the same position. Both of them were employed, were given the position. One received $60,000, while the other one was given an offer of $75,000. The difference between both of them is one was Black, one was white. The Black one so happened to be the one that went to an Ivy League school. He is the one that has completed his degree, has his transcripts and everything in hand, yet he was offered $15,000 less than his white counterpart for the same job within the same organization. Why do I share that? Unfortunately, the system is one such that if you think about person A, he's gonna have to take up a second job to pay off his student loan, while person B, he's already $15,000 ahead of the game. So when we hear when Black voters and brown voters say, when the argument is made that Black people and brown people don't vote enough in these local government elections, it's not that they don't vote because they don't want to vote. They don't vote half the times because they're not allowed to, based on whatever mitigating circumstances there may be.
Well, I think the emphasis right now on mail-in voting would be a partial solution. So that is something to advocate for, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
So that no matter what time of the day you have to be someplace else, you can always fill out your vote and put it in the mailbox. Hopefully it gets counted. It's another game, but anyway.
George, could I cut in? Because
Oh, you're still here. Okay. I thought
I'm really, really grateful that we're having this opportunity, and I see this as a continuing conversation that you and I have been diving into. And the last few times we've spoken, we've been speaking specifically about race. And the reason that I've invited my good friend Andre to join us, and again, thank you, Andre, is because in the last couple times, I heard you say that you, and people who have watched this program, maybe people who are watching it right now, who don't feel that there's racism because there aren't races. Well, Andre's sharing some stories of racism. And I just want, this is like just a little check-in. Do you understand these stories to validate the claim that racism does exist, or do you need further proof?
What you consider racism, I just think of as ethnic persecution, prejudice, whatever you want to call it. The scenario that we started to go through with Andre, of talking about what is the administration doing for you? Is it helping out with this particular incident where there was a fictitious, I guess, noise complaint and things got out of hand? And I got a grin on my face that probably wouldn't show on the pictures, but when he mentioned paddy wagon, that's one of my trigger points, because paddy wagon got into the system when the Irish were living in the low rent district. And the net result was along comes Tammany Hall, which gets into taking over the politics of New York City. Notorious bunch, not very nice people, but they got into politics very deep from a minority position and made things happen. And the same thing happened when I was growing up in Providence. The establishment of the Irish politicians got overturned by the Italians. And if you look at Providence right now, there's an awful lot of people in office with an awful lot of color to their skin. So this is one of the ways to make it happen. And I know of instances where it did happen. And it's an ethnic problem.
George, I want to cut in again because I want to keep it very specific. I want to introduce in this conversation that I just learned last night right here in Beverly. The mayor had put up a Black Lives Matter flag in front of City Hall, which is right where the police department is. The police department is right there, right?
Yeah.
Next to City Hall.
Yeah, in the backside of City Hall.
Someone stole the Black Lives Matter flag night before last. Did you hear about that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you did?
And I also heard that they took down the MIA flag to put the Black flag up, Black Lives flag up.
So this is a serious,
there got to be a conflict.
Serious situation we have in Beverly if right in front of the police department, something that was erected by the mayor has been stolen. That's either one brazen individual to do that right in front of the police department, or you have to wonder, who actually did this. So I would like to say on this program tonight, I'd really like to see the surveillance film footage of that. I would like to see who actually did that, because I'm sure in front of the police department, in front of City Hall, you're going to have to
be recording of it. There has to be recording. What is the MIA flag?
Missing in action.
Okay.
Veterans.
So George, and then, so furthermore, we've been having a series of conversations at the Zen Center with two of the organizers of the Black Lives Matter March. They're graduates of Beverly High School. And apparently there is a counselor there, and this is kind of mirroring what Reverend Andre is talking about. There's a counselor there who, with these two students, one is this Black student and one is a white student. the black student might have better grades even, but the black student was told by the guidance counselor, there's nothing wrong with North Shore Community College, but that's not where this student wanted to go. And that was the only thing that the guidance counselor said, that this student should go to North Shore Community College. The white student said that he wanted to go to Bowdoin. And there was no discussion. She said, great. So there's a discrepancy here about how young people are encouraged or not from the get-go in our schools. So we've got a big problem here in Beverly, and I want to say I'm getting afraid. If there is this theft right in front of the police department, and no one's safe. Like, what is going on here in Beverly? So, George, I want to ask you, are you concerned at all that this theft happened right in front of the police department?
I'm concerned that we are too divisive in our society as a whole. And there is a group, and I know who's leading it. I saw the comments on Facebook that they were incensed that their flag got taken down. Period. And the fact that the Black Lives Matter flag got put in its place was also a trauma to that particular group.
May I ask what is the MIA group?
It's the Veterans Missing in Action.
Okay.
But George, that wasn't the story that I was told, and I don't think the mayor would.
Exactly, that's the problem.
I don't.
You
so
only
George,
have
George, let's not get distracted by gossip, because I don't think that's the facts. That is not the facts. It's not like you can only have the Pride flag or the MIA flag or the Black Lives Matter flag. That's not the issue. The issue is that the Black Lives Matter flag was stolen after being erected by the mayor of this city. That's a big problem.
That's the disconnect. To you, that's the only issue.
So, George, here's something. You were saying to Reverend Andre, what about the voting process for Black and brown people? And Reverend Andre is saying, he's trying to respond to that. So my question to you is, why wouldn't it be okay for the MIA people to follow that same kind of discourse instead of just, if they were the ones or whoever it was? Are you saying that because the MIA flag was taken down, that validates stealing the Black Lives Matter flag? Is that what you're saying?
This is another disconnect. I'm not trying to justify what happened. I'm trying to explain it. And if you can't explain it, you can't fix it. There's a difference there.
So I started to tell these stories because my simple question is whether or not you, George Binns, who've been staying with me in these conversations, if you can see and you can feel the pain that Reverend Andre is trying to share with us of what Black people actually experience on the North Shore. That's the simple question.
Oh yeah, I totally understand what he's saying. I can totally empathize with the people of color.
Yeah, thank you.
You know what's going on. It's not the right thing. It should be changed. It should be fixed. Yes. I'm looking for how do we fix it?
Okay, so that's the next question. So let's ask Reverend Dr. Andre. So we've got a situation here. We agree that there is racism.
Yes,
and there is
part of agreement again.
Well, so the next question that George is asking, Reverend Andre, so how can we be in solidarity? What is the next step? What can we do? And this is a big ask. I'm not expecting you to be the expert. Let me just be clear.
Absolutely. And the immediate response is more of a statement than anything. Silence is complicity. That's the immediate response. Silence is complicity. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, we live in a system, we live in a society where, okay, I will use what's happening nationally to explain where I'm at before I give what I think are steps that we can take to start fixing the problem. We have a president that's currently elected, duly elected, who It doesn't, you must be living under a rock to not by now see the character of this individual. He thrives on division. He thrives on hate. He thrives on tearing the country apart. But that, for some people, even here in good old Boston, on the North Shore of Boston, that for some people, those things are not enough. They look away. They say, my, employment, the economy is picking up. Job employment is at, unemployment is at its lowest. He tells it as it is. He's doing this, he's doing that, and they justify his just complete horrible character by the things that they see or believe is happening. Not accepting and understanding that he is riding a wave of growth for the last 10 years. Not accepting that. Now, why do I share that? It is not okay. It is not okay. There's nothing that justifies the removal of a Black Lives Matter banner from Beverly, from the police station in Beverly that the mayor erected. And every group, every organization, every advocacy group, every community, grassroots organization and individual should be concerned that people were brazen enough to go to the police station and remove this, irrespective of what was removed to erect it. Now, not saying what was removed to erect the Black Lives Matter banner is correct. There is a systemic approach, a choreographed systemic approach to keep communities divided. And unfortunately, it is communities that are considered minorities are the ones. So if you're a part of the LGBTQ plus community, you're a minority. You're going to be divided. If you're a part of the Black and the brown community, you're going to be divided. If you're a part of the MIA, you're a minority. And if we can send a message to one community that your rights and your issues matter more than the other community, then we win in dividing and conquer. Now, how do we address that? We, you, me, George, the three of us that are sitting here, have to now collectively say, no. This ain't right. It is not okay for me to drive down the street and get a pass at going 70 in a 55 zone because I am white or because I'm the Reverend Doctor. And it's not, while my brother or my sister gets pulled over because he or she is Black or brown. It's not okay. I remember I had a situation in Lynn where a young man called me one night, and I've shared this before, you may have heard it, Joan. A young man called me one night. It was something like 5 minutes before midnight, and he was very distraught. It's a young man that I've been working with for a while, and he said to me very clearly, he said, I am just calling you to say goodbye. Tomorrow, by tomorrow morning, I would have been dead because I am done. I'm over. I can't take this anymore. I then said to him, how will you die? He said to me, I have the pills and I'm about to take my life. So I said to him, will you allow me to be there with you when you do this? He said, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if you can handle it. I said, no, let me make the decision whether or not I can handle it. You see, I'm a therapist by profession, so I know how to get through. I'm not going to tell him while I have him on the phone, oh, no, you can't do that, because that's going to speed up the process. And by the time we got through talking, I was at his door. I was at his gate. So I said to him, I'm downstairs. I'm at your house right now. Will you please come with me or come to my car so we can have a conversation? He came to my car, we got in the car, we drove. Now we drove to the Nahant Beach. There's a parking lot at the Nahant Beach. There's no sign there that says anything. This now had to be about 20 minutes after midnight, somewhere there. There's no parking lot. There's no sign at the parking lot that says this park closes at 6 p.m. There's no sign there. I pulled in, there's at least 8 other cars, and there are people in the cars because you can see the silhouette of their bodies, or you can see movements or lights in their car. A police car pulled in behind us, and I parked in one parking lot, and the police car pulled up in the exact next parking lot to me. We sat in that car for 45 minutes and change and had a conversation. The police sat in their car for 45 minutes and change. The moment I turned my light on, because I turned my ignition on because I got to a place where I felt comfortable that he was not going to do this tonight. It was safe for him to go home. I invited him to come to my house. He said, no, he's going to go home. We had a game plan as to how this whole thing was going to go moving forward. I turned on my ignition, got ready to back out. The moment I reversed to get out, the police car, they turned on their ignition and they pulled out. The moment I got on the road, the police pulled me over. The same police car pulled me over. He pulled me over, and I asked him, why are you pulling me over? He said, your sticker, are you aware that your sticker is expired? So I turned on the flashlight on my car and I shone it on the sticker. I said, that sticker that at this time, this was April, that doesn't expire, that says August of that year was 2018. I said, the same sticker that says 8/18, that's the sticker you're saying expired? He said, license and registration. May I have your license and registration? He didn't even respond, just, may I have your license and registration? So I, went over, I pulled out my license. I took my license out of my pocket and I'm going over to pull out my registration. While I'm doing that, he said, what's your name? I said, I am the Reverend Dr. Andre Bennett. He said, excuse me. I said, I am the Reverend Dr. Andre Bennett from Zion Baptist Church. Now, this is Lynn. He said, oh, Reverend Andre from Zion? I said, yes. I am the Reverend Dr. Andre Bennett from Zion Baptist Church. He said, oh, I am so sorry, blah, blah, blah. He took my license, he took my registration, he went through the whole thing. We get some crazies in here, yada, yada, yada. I said to him, however, I hear all of that, but you were sitting next to us for the entire time. This is after he walked through. Did I know that the park closed at 6 p.m. at night? I said, no, there's no sign that says that, so I wouldn't know. He said, well, yes, it does. I said, do those other people in the park, do they know that it closes at 6 p.m. at night? Again, no response. And he went through the whole thing. Again, name recognition, he didn't even check anything. We had a conversation. He told me about the crazies, yada, yada, yada. Then he started walking away. I called him back and I said to him, I am very, very disappointed. And your chief is going to hear about this tomorrow. I said, the reason I'm disappointed, you spent over an hour of taxpayers' money sitting down in a parking lot profiling 2 African-American males. Because the only reason you pulled in behind us is because we're 2 Black men. And the only reason you sat there, you didn't even walk the park to check what else was going on. You sat next to us the entire time. And the moment I came out, you pulled us over. I said, that's only because we're African-American males. That's why you did that. I said, the other thing that I'm concerned about is you were ready to write me up for something. But the moment I said, I am Reverend Dr. Andre Bennett, it was okay. I said, what if it was this young man that is sitting next to me? What if it was him that was sitting in the driver's seat, who doesn't have a name recognition, who doesn't have a profile, who isn't known for anything except just being a law-abiding resident in the city of Lynn? What would have happened? And he could not respond. I drove off and I called the chief the following morning. Why I share that? Silence is complicity. If we want to fix the issues that are happening in this country that we see happening right now, we have to start speaking up. And we have to get away from the place of worrying about how it impacts our cushy little deal that we have going on. We have to get away from there. We have to start speaking up. We have to start standing up. Understand, and I've said this over and over, personally, I'm not looking for any handouts. I don't know anybody that is. We are able to make our own. We're able to hold our own, but we can't do it without the white allies. You are the ones that have to stand now between us and the police, because we're the ones the police are terrorizing. Final story I'll share with you. I have two nurses, or had two nurses, that worked at the same hospital when it was open, Union Hospital in Lynn. One black, one white. They worked the same shift at the same hospital on the same night. They're driving home. One is going 40 in a 35 zone, 40 in a 35 zone. She got pulled over by the police. She gave the police her story. It's 2:00 in the morning. She just got off of a 16-hour shift. She's just trying to get home. She's sorry she didn't know the speed limit. She didn't recognize how fast she was going. Yada yada. She was slapped with a $350 ticket. She didn't just tell me this. She brought the ticket to show us. And the other nurse, same night, she's rushing home. She breezed through a stoplight. The police pulled her over. She gave him the same story. I just got off of a 16-hour shift. I am tired. I'm just trying to get home. I am so sorry. You know what was said to her? Well, please get home safely, because we can't afford for anything to happen to you. She breezed through a stoplight. The other one went 5 miles over the speed limit. There is a fundamental problem with this country. And all I say to people when I'm asked, and I can't give you the answers as to how we fix this. All I say to people, think about yourself. Think about your children. Think about your grandchildren. If it is not right for you, if it is not right for your children, if it's not right for your grandchildren, if you don't want it for them, you should not want it for me. It should not be okay that it happens to me. I, as a parent, a black man in America, with a 17-year-old son who's going to be 18 years old in 2 months' time, I worry. I literally worry almost to the point of sickness every time this young man leaves this house, because I don't know what phone call I'm going to get whenever he leaves this house. I've had this conversation with a number of fathers, white fathers. They can't relate to that kind of issue. My son, when him and his friends are horsing around, because they're all boys of color, they are considered thugs who are looking for trouble. When their white counterparts, because they go to Peabody High School, when their white counterparts are horsing around, they're considered rowdy kids having a good time. It is not okay. So your job, if you really want to be a part of the solution, speak up. Don't be silent. Let police and the systems, the administration, the forces there be, know that this can't happen and will no longer happen in your town, in your city. I'm not going to stand for this. The Black Lives Matter banner came down. We needed to be erected. We needed to be erected now, and we're all going to come out here and we're going to ensure that it's erected. Well, what about the MIA banner? Well, you know what? We're going to erect another flagpole, and the Black Lives Matter banner is going to be there, the MIA banner is going to be there, and the rainbow banner is going to be there. Because when one of us is divided, it destroys all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Andre, thank you so much. It's so much. It's a lot. It's huge. And George, so I just want to check in with you, George. This is, in our racial justice conversation last night, after an hour, we were all depressed. It's hard work. This is not easy. It's not easy to hear these stories. It's not easy, I'm sure, to tell these stories. But George, I just want to ask you, I want to thank you, first of all, for hosting us and for listening.
I appreciate it. I really do.
Yeah, being up for this. You clearly are. And so as a meditation teacher, I just want to ask you, George, well, first of all, are we all breathing? But, secondly, George, how are you feeling? How does this feel to hear this?
It's confirming my suspicion that things are rotten in the relationship between people, all kinds of people. And as the good Reverend has mentioned, we're all in the same boat together. And the idea that we can point fingers at somebody else for doing something we don't like, and that's okay, just doesn't cut it.
Mm-hmm. So George,
And the point he's also making is that we got to speak out, which is what we were doing for the last 3, 4, almost a couple of months now of these various things. We're trying to get the message across that, hey, some nasty things are going on.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it doesn't happen to me every day of the week doesn't mean that I'm not sensitive to it, not aware of it. And I think we had this discussion a couple of shows ago about there's different kinds of people, those that'll stand up and do something, and those that'll duck their head and say, hopefully it doesn't hit me.
Yes, that's right, George.
And that's the same message that the Reverend Bennett has just been giving us. We're all in this boat together.
Well, we kind of to a point are kind of, if the boat is called planet Earth. But, you know, some people are saying, like about the pandemic, we are not in the same boat. I mean, I think what Reverend Andre is talking about is that there are people who have bigger boats. You know, it would be really nice if we all were in the same boat, but that's actually not what I'm.
The other piece is there's some people who are not in a boat. There's some of us who are just in the water drowning, and we're just asking for a life at this point. Just throw us a tube so we can float to safety.
Yes. So George, this is our awakening as white people. This is our awakening to the realities of what some people, because of the color of their skin, are having to deal with. So Reverend Andre, you are extremely visible on the North Shore with all these protests and showing up and speaking. And George, a couple of shows ago, I gave you that homework about texting with someone of another race, you know, and I think in that spirit, I would like to invite you to come with me to the next protest, the next event that Reverend Andre is going to be at. Could we join you, Reverend Andre, for something that's...
Absolutely. And if this will help, let me say this, and not to heap or heave praises for myself, because I see the work that I do not as a badge of honor, but as a need to survive. As visible as I am, and I get all the calls and all the emails, and I do the press conferences and all that. My mom said something to me a couple days ago. She said to me, you know, it would be great to be able to say to people, I have a son that's doing this and doing that. But every time I think of you and the work that you're doing and the place that you live, I think of the time when I'm going to have to say to people, I had a son. I had a son. In that she is worried that my life is like a ticking time bomb that's about to come to an end at any given point. And it broke my heart, but it also encouraged me. And the reason I say it encouraged me is because I think about the fact that my son is coming, and I don't want Faye having to feel the need to have that conversation with Shay when he gets to my age. I want Shay to be able to live in a world that values him as a human being and do not see him as a threat. Why am I sharing that? Because of the invitation that you just made to George. And I'm personally making an invitation to George and to anyone else that's listening. I need your face, your voice, your color, your race to stand with me in this moment to say, you know what, Reverend Andre, Reverend Bennett, Dr. Bennett, Andre, whatever you want to call me, is one of us. He is me and I am him. And so I am going to stand with my brother in the quest for equality and justice. And God, by God, we're not asking for much. And I get it. I personally get the fear and the not understanding, but it is upon all of us our white counterparts, as well as those of us of color who shy away, because we do have people of color, Black and brown people, who do not get involved in the movement and the fight for justice because they feel like it's not going anywhere. But it's upon all of us to not just see and talk among ourselves, but to seek ways to educate ourselves and transform our way of thinking. And so I'm also extending the invitation, and I thank you, Reverend Joan, and I thank you, George, for taking the time to have this conversation and also for seeking ways to be a part of the solution.
Thank you.
Well, I think we've hit the magic 6 o'clock.
Wow.
I know, short.
No,
And we've had a good conversation. I think you've brought up some real examples of real problems that need to get fixed. And I'm of the opinion that we've got to change the politics because that's where it's all happening. And one of the anecdotes I'll share with you is the officer involved in the George Floyd incident had 18 complaints against him. And the mayor is complaining, oh, I can't do anything about it because of the unions. And he's the guy that negotiates the union contract. So this game of pointing fingers at everybody else and not taking responsibility is the message I think we've got to get to the politicians that, hey, you represent the people, all of the people. And I don't care what color they are, sky blue, pink with purple polka dots. And until we can get that message across to the political community, I'm not very enthusiastic.
But George, so the word we've been using is maybe we don't need enthusiasm, maybe we need determination. Will you be determined with us?
Are we doing these shows every couple of weeks?
Okay. All right, George. Let's keep going.
Hey, this is the venue I think where I can make a difference. And I think
this is one of
the game I'm playing.
This is one of, and I personally appreciate it. This is one of, but as time goes by and as we continue going on, we'll find and we'll see that there are other and more avenues and venues that open up for us to be a part of the conversation and make a difference.
They won't open up for us. We got to make them open.
There you go. I like that. I love that.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching us. And stay tuned. We'll be back with another show.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take good care.
Thank you very much. Take great care.